Okay, this is the effects of technology breaks on media multitasking. My name is Jodi Sheets.
I'm Summer Cherry.
Hi, I'm Carly Clegg.
I'm Briana Schwinnen.
And we are all in the SPCE 611 Advanced Applied Behavior Analysis class with Dr. Diana Wilson. Okay, so the purpose of our study, in a world where media is constantly available throughout the day, this study's focus was on the use of media when multitasking between academic and non-academic tasks and how that affects individuals using the media, as well as this implemented a self-monitoring program with a timer system for scheduled break times. During this behavior change replication study, quantitative data was collected using multiple baseline design over the 4 graduate students in the Applied Behavior Analysis class for summer semester 2023. We're all majoring in applied behavior analysis, and we're all online students. We were recruited using time zone availability for our class, and schedules of breaks were followed from the original Guinness ETAL study. So methods and participants. The participants are us, 4 female graduate level students. We're all online students at BSU in Applied Behavior Analysis Master's Program, and our ages range from 21 to 38. The setting, when we initially met on Zoom, we decided that we each had these same materials available. So we all either work at a desk or a table in a quiet, well-lit room with a chair. And then participants were aware that we were looking at the social media multitasking behavior that was being reviewed. And then for some participants, this meant working in an office or a bedroom or dining room or kitchen. So is this an actual problem? From the research that we conducted to support the original replication article, we see that high rates of off-task technology use in academic settings present an significant problem because it decreases student focus and comprehension skills, as well as the retention of the materials that you are learning. There's negative effects on academic performance, and typically when researched, students who do not use technology during academic tasks perform significantly better than students that do.
Okay, so moving into the response definition and measurement portion of this study, engaging with technology and or media for non-academic purposes for longer than 5 seconds is defined as media multitasking. These non-academic engagements could include, but are not limited to, surfing the web, talking on the phone to appear about irrelevant topics related to your academic task, scrolling through social media, etc. On-task behaviors were structured the same as the non-academic off-task behaviors, where engaging in academic study for 5 seconds or longer was considered to be on task. These engagements include, but are not limited to, sending an email to a professor, researching supplemental material for an assignment, messaging a classmate about a group assignment, etc. With the engagements being set into a wide array, it was easy to identify the areas that each participant found to be the most problematic in terms of engaging in these multimedia behaviors. Media multitasking was the behavior used for analyzing and reporting purposes for this study. So this study was set up with the experimental design being a multiple baseline design across all 4 participants, evaluating the effect that technology breaks has on media multitasking during an independent, structured, and task-oriented study. Multiple baselines can be used when there are many participants. So for the sake of this study consisting of 4 participants, it suited its needs the best. When using a multiple baselines design, interventions can lead to irreversible behavior change, which is another reason that this design was chosen. Irreversible behavior change occurs when treatment from a previous phase contributes to the decrease of behavior in the next phase. So in other words, as treatment continues, the level of behavior seen in each of the previous phases should continually decrease.
So the social validity assessment, when we initially met on Zoom as a group on May 23rd, we were kind of looking over all the available replication studies to us and deciding which one would increase our quality of life the best. And we all decided that multitasking was a big issue, not just on social media, but for all of us during scheduled academic work times. So that this would probably impact us the most directly out of all of the options available to us. And then it was decided that limiting the amount of time each participant took part in the media multitasking behavior would benefit each student and increase our ability to focus on important tasks. So the social significance of this intervention was also assessed after all group members completed the interventions. This will also be discussed later on when we go through all of our own personal data collection. When I was researching the social significance that kind of comes with the use of social media during academic tasks, it was apparent that there is a huge decrease in executive functioning abilities in students that use social media, and there can be an increase in anxiety because of technology dependency. Everything in the world right now is so immediate, and there's a hard way to find balance in your life between social connections and the things that you're supposed to be working on, which can really make it difficult to feel like you are giving 100% to whatever task you're working on with all of these other variables present each day.
Okay, so moving into what baseline looked like for this study, all sessions, including the baseline, lasted for a 60-minute duration. The participants sat in their study areas in their homes that we mentioned earlier in the methods section. The participants were allowed access to all study materials, and this could include laptops, textbooks, notebooks, anything else that would be used for academic purposes. And they had access to their electronic devices, which for us was our cell phones. During baseline collection, participants monitored anytime they began to multitask using their cell phones for a non-academic task that had a duration of 5 seconds or longer, and we documented the duration of this media multitasking behavior.
So moving into our treatment phase of this study, this is where we had participant implemented breaks. So during the treatment phase, timers were implemented and participants did not have access to technology. So their phones or things that we would use to multitask using media. So a work timer was used to indicate the amount of time left before a 1-minute break was delivered. 1-minute breaks were delivered throughout the treatment sessions, and the duration of work timers were increased every 4th session. So we started out, when we started our treatment phase, with a 5-minute timer for working or studying. And then we did 5 minutes for 4 sessions. And then we increased it to a 7-minute work timer. And then we did that for 4 sessions. And then we kept going with 9 minutes and then 11.5 minutes. And each of those, we did those for 4 sessions as well. And after the designated amount of time, a break timer of 1 minute was started, and we switched the timers back and forth until the end of the session. So we had a 5-minute work timer, and then that timer would go off, and then we would start our 1-minute break. And we did that for each of the treatment phases, being 5, 7, 9, and 11.5 working minutes. So this is an example of what our data sheet looked like and how we collected data. So we wrote down the date of each of our sessions. So we started in May, at the end of May, and this went all the way through the end of June. And then we wrote down the number session that we did. So we had sessions 1 through 20, and then we took data on the frequency. So the amount of times that we picked up our phone or we were multitasking by studying or working on something for class or school, and then doing something else like being on our phone, scrolling on social media, taking a phone call, answering a text, whatever that may be. And then we also took data on duration, so how long we were engaging in that multitasking behavior. So this is what my graph looked like. So I had 4 sessions in baseline, and then we had 15 sessions in the treatment phase. So my baseline data was a little all over the place. It was pretty high in regards to what my treatment phase looked like. So you can see that there was a decrease in my multitasking behavior over the replication of the study that we did. So by the end of the study and by the 20th session, my multitasking behavior was as low as 7 minutes. So it decreased quite a bit throughout the replication of this study. So my baseline mean was calculated at 35.5 minutes of being off task during studying, and my baseline data ranged from 30 to 40 minutes. And then once structured breaks were implemented, my treatment mean was calculated as 13.3 minutes of media multitasking during sessions. And then my treatment data ranged from 7 to 22 minutes. So I think just giving myself timed breaks during each session allowed me to better focus and retain the information that I was reading and studying, and just being able to pay attention better while I was taking notes or reading or doing an assignment or whatever it was that I was doing for class. The anticipation of a break also limited my phone usage during work periods. So I was able to go the 5 minutes, the 7 minutes, 9 and 11.5 minutes. I was able to go longer because I knew that I had a break coming up. So I didn't feel the urge to check my phone as often or scroll on social media or whatever, because I knew that I had a 1-minute break coming up after my work timer was over.
So this is my data collection graph, and like Summer, I had 4 baseline points and then the 16 following for the 20 sessions. I also had a decrease in the amount of off-task behaviors. So for my quantitative data, my baseline mean was 23.75 minutes off task during structured academic tasks, and the range was from 19 to 30 minutes before we implemented any of the kind of structured academic breaks. Once we did do that, the average went all the way down to 6.06 minutes off task, taking part of it in any media multitasking for the hour-long session, and my treatment range went down to 2 to 10 minutes in duration for the last 16 sessions there. Overall, I felt like giving myself the structured breaks really helped me better focus on academic tasks, as well as reading and taking notes, which are 2 activities that I don't find very motivating typically. I also felt like I could retain information better. And prior to starting this study, my screen time was an average of 4 hours and 30 minutes per day. So not taking into account like any certain hours where I'm working on academic tasks. But once I did kind of implement this into my daily study sessions and things, my average went down to 2 hours and 30 minutes per day, which is like a 55% decrease, which is crazy. It definitely helped me to maybe even feel a little bit more motivated to work, like Summer said, because I knew that a break was coming. So I didn't feel so restless when I was doing something because I knew that I would get that reinforcement once my timer went off.
Okay, moving into my data. So similar to Jodi and Summer, you can see here that I too had 4 baseline points and then 16 points throughout the phases of intervention. And some things that I noticed is I found during baseline that many of my multitasking behaviors occurred when I would think of something to Google or get on an online shopping website. I'd answer the phone and stay on the phone chatting for too long, get a notification on my phone, and I'd immediately pick it up and respond. However, being researcher and participant here in this study, as the treatment progressed, I was way more cognitive of my engagement in the behaviors. I began to ignore things that caused me to engage in the behavior during baseline. The breaks were provided for designated multimedia usage, but for a few sessions, you can see I did engage still outside of those allotted breaks. However, those behaviors began to be more things such as answering the phone and saying, I'm going to have to call you back, and then hanging up, not staying on the phone and just chatting away. I'd ignore notifications for text messages and such unless it was a constant income of notifications where I maybe felt that someone needed me urgently. So I would pay it attention and set it back down. Otherwise, I began to wait for the next break before checking my phone, which is why you can see here that my data shows a significant decrease in behavior since baseline. Okay, and then so my baseline mean had a mean of 18.75 minutes that I spent engaging in multimedia behaviors. My range for baseline was 15 to 23 minutes spent engaging in these behaviors. Once the structured breaks were implemented, however, my treatment mean was 6.94 minutes. So you can see there that's a pretty significant decrease, and my treatment range was 4 to 11 minutes that I spent engaging in off-task behaviors. And these numbers include the breaks that were allotted by the timers. So just to kind of recap, once I became aware that I was allotted the breaks to use my cell phone during the structured task, I became more cognitive of ignoring my cell phone notifications until the break was present. I did sometimes still engage, like I said, but it lessened and only occurred if I felt that it was really necessary to check my phone.
Okay, so now onto my graph. Similar to the others, I had 4 baseline data points and then 16 intervention. You can see that mine does fluctuate a bit, but you can see the overall decrease from baseline to intervention. So my baseline mean was 26 minutes spent engaging in media multitasking, and my baseline range was 22 to 29 minutes, which greatly decreased in the treatment phases, where my treatment mean was 6.33 minutes spent engaging in media multitasking across all treatment phases, and the treatment range was between 3 and 15 minutes. During the treatment phase, I definitely became more aware of how much I was using my phone outside of the given technology breaks, which does show why there's such a decrease. I would still use my phone outside of the breaks, but the duration did significantly decline from the baseline phase. So moving on to our procedural integrity. To maintain procedural integrity, we communicated via text and Zoom to ensure that we were all collecting data the same way and staying on track with our data collection. One way that we made sure that we were staying on track with our data collection as well was we referenced the project checklist throughout the week and made sure that we were all on the same page for what we should be doing, how many data points we should have, and how we're collecting it. We also watched videos of each other to ensure that we were following the correct procedures, which goes into what we did for our IOA. So for IOA, we all sent each other videos that were 10 minutes in length. And we had 2 people watch one person's video to collect the IOA. Our overall IOA percentage was 96%. And to find the IOA, we divided the shorter duration by the longer duration. For each occurrence of the behavior, we added the values and then divided by the total number of occurrences and multiplied by 100. And for our results, you can see that each participant's results all showed a decrease in media multitasking throughout each intervention phase.
So we had quite a few limitations for our study. One of the first limitations that I'm going to talk about is the fact that we were the participant and the researcher. So we were the ones obviously doing everything that we have already described, sitting down at our desk in a quiet area and using the timers to implement the breaks during our treatment phase. But then we were also the researcher in that we had to collect all of our own data, and we weren't just sitting there focusing on being the participant. We also had to look at it from another lens and collect the data, and then we all analyzed our own data and came up with everything that we talked about earlier with our graphs and our findings. Another limitation that we had was observer bias. So we all obviously knew that we were taking data on ourselves and we were being watched, so to speak. And so that can make you act differently sometimes. That can, I think it made us more mindful of when we got onto our phones and engaged in the media multitasking behavior. So that might have been the case as to why all of our data showed a decrease in our behaviors. Our next limitation is that we didn't measure academic performance, so there was nothing really to compare our decrease in behavior to. A lot of the times, like getting on social media or answering a call or a text message, or just engaging in multitasking behavior regarding media shows a correlation in poor academic performance, but we did not measure that here. So we really don't know. We didn't measure academic performance, so we don't know if that helped us academically, if the decrease in our multitasking behavior helped our academic performance at all. We don't know that because we didn't measure it. Another limitation is that we don't know if it's a generalized behavior. So we took data on ourselves when we were by ourselves, and it showed that there was a decrease in all of our behaviors and multitasking on social media or on our phones. But we don't know if we were to study in a group, if our behavior would also decrease in the group, or if we did it outside of our homes. We don't know. So that was another limitation. And our last limitation that I'm going to talk about is the fact that our IOA data collection could be inaccurate, since we couldn't actually see in the person's video their entire body. We also couldn't see their screen. So they could have been holding their phone with their hand outside of the camera angle and been engaging in the multitasking on their phone, but we wouldn't know because we couldn't see it. We also couldn't see their computer screen. So they could have had another tab open where they were engaging in the multitasking behavior. But again, we couldn't see that. So that was another limitation of our study.
And jumping in really quick, adding to the IOA comment there, for clarification purposes, it wasn't that we inaccurately set up the angle. It was a limitation within a limitation, that we had a lot of things going on and we only had a laptop and a cell phone. So there was logistically no real way that we could set it up with the proper angle to see the screen and see ourselves and have a device to potentially multimedia task on and have a device that we're academically working on. So that's just a little clarification for why it was inaccurate.
Yeah, that kind of goes into us being the participant and the researcher as well.
We also thought that one way that we could decrease that in the future is to actually share your screen if you're doing like a Zoom or something. That way the IOA observers could see what you're doing on the computer.
So next we just have our contribution log. So we obviously all collected our own data, analyzed our own data, and then we also broke up what we did for this presentation specifically and how long we worked on everything. The 25 hours includes our data collection as well as what we did for the presentation. So the amount of time that we spent replicating the study, collecting our data, analyzing our data, and then everything that we did for this presentation as well.
So the conclusion of our study is obviously our results all showed a significant decrease, and I think that we're all pretty positive about using technology breaks when we're working on academic tasks. I'm probably going to try to continue to do this for myself after this class is over. However, I mean, there are a lot of environmental and confounding variables that can occur that don't even have to do with media multitasking. I feel like as people, we multitask a lot throughout our everyday lives, but definitely decreasing the use of social media when we should be taking part in other things is a positive for everyone to do. But that is what we found. And overall, I think that this would be a really good intervention for many individuals. However, there is the self-management aspect. So that is something that we need to keep in mind for more diverse cultures, and also having access to a computer or a timer is another thing that one would want to keep track of when working with other cultures. And these are the references that we used. Thank you.